Welcome to Wild Ideas Worth Living, a show where we talk to experts who've taken a wild idea and made it a reality so you can too. From people who have sailed around the world to those who've started thriving businesses and even broken records, some of the wildest ideas can lead to the most rewarding adventures. I'm your host, Shelby Stanger, and I hope you enjoy this show. This is episode 24 with November Project Mastermind, Brogan Graham. This episode was brought to you by Toad & Co. Formerly called Horny Toad out of Central California, this great outdoor clothing company makes 90% of their products using eco-friendly materials, whether it's organic, plant-based, or recycled fabrics. They also have a program called Design for Good, which totally kicks ass. They take a portion of every single item they sell and put it towards exposing people with disabilities to life-changing trips in the outdoors. Their mission also aligns perfectly with having a wild idea worth living. They're all about inspiring people to live their fullest lives, and they're rabid supporters of following your passions and refusing to settle. They also have a great tagline, which is "Keep Good Company," exactly why I started Wild Ideas Worth Living. You can check out all of their amazing products, their mission, and the ambassadors of all abilities they work with at toadandco.com. The November Project has been described as a type of fight club, but with hugging. It's a free fitness movement that's gained a ton of momentum. It's also the brainchild of Brogan Graham, a former collegiate rower and rowing coach turned marketer who needed a good excuse to work out and train in the freezing winter months in Boston with his buddy. What started with just two guys doing stairs at Harvard Stadium, then doing other tough workouts, turned into a group of guys doing workouts, then dozens of athletes showing up to do workouts, then hundreds of people showing up. Today, there are now thousands who show up at over 37 cities around the world for free group workouts for all abilities that release a ton of positivity for you to carry throughout your day. I met Brogan because a bunch of different people kept coming up to me saying, "Hey, you got to have this guy, Brogan Graham, on your podcast. He lives in San Diego." Eventually, I showed up at a November Project workout at 6:29 a.m. and I had a great experience. Brogan's about 6'4". He's got a huge personality and a giant heart. He's given talks in front of thousands of people at Facebook and other big corporations, and he was totally down to do my podcast the way I've always wanted to do the podcast when I started this baby. The idea is that first we'd go surfing, then we'd come home to eat my favorite food group, chips, guacamole, and salsa, have a beverage, and let loose. So this is how we did this show, and I guarantee you it's one of the best podcasts we've done yet. Enjoy. All right.
Pocket.
All right.
Check,
Wait,
check.
Stop. I'm talking.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
All right. So today
This
we
is gonna be a disaster, by the way.
Okay, so today we have Brogan Graham on the show. Brogan, welcome to Wild Ideas Worth Living.
Greetings, and thank you for having me to your home.
So Brogan has this amazing haircut right now. He's got his hair mostly shaved, except for one spot in the middle of his head.
It's called the Sensei.
It's called the Sensei, and we also just went surfing. So this is actually how I wanted to do all of my podcasts. We go surf first, and we have guacamole, chips, and beer, and we podcast.
Right. In this case, we did surf, beer, a very unsuccessful Instagram live. And
we're Instagramming live right now.
Oh, we have one follower, and the chips and guacamole are coming. So it's like, it's kind of going to, it's going to be a rollout.
So Ravello Metal is our Instagram follower. Thank you so much. Hopefully he listens to this live podcast. So Brogan, for those who do not know who you are, which is crazy because everyone should know who you are, you get 3 minutes and I'm going to start the timer. How did you get the wild idea to start the November Project? What is the November Project? Who are you? How big is it? Where is the November Project?
All right, cool.
Actually, I'm going to give you 4 minutes because it's so good.
Okay, ready?
Go.
In October, not November, October 2011, my college teammate, Boyan Mandrick, and I were standing in the basement of a bar on Boylston Street in downtown Boston. And that bar is called The Poorhouse. And we were talking about how the winter was coming and it's hard to get out and train and those kinds of things. And we were drinking beers. We decided to, almost like a bet, take on the month of November, working out every day before we went to work, rain or shine. We were rowers in college, and so kind of dealing with the elements is part of what we do. So we took on that month, but we were such data nerds because we were rower guys that we had to keep a spreadsheet with all the weather and the mileage and all
Wow.
that. So we could add to it and kind of talk trash to each other with real, cells. And so we called that spreadsheet November Project. And it was just a 1 month thing. We were maybe going to become morning people. We would maybe get a little fitter, but we would definitely get to see each other. And the closer you are to 30 than 20, you get busy on the weekends. And the word busy gets brought up a lot more than before. And so it was a wild idea that was just about 30 days, just that month of November. Or there's 31. How many days are in 30? How many days are in November? Pop quiz. Any of our Instagram followers?
I think
how many
it's 30.
days? Okay, so 30 days. And what we had thought might become a pattern that would take us through the winter kind of as like a positive byproduct, but not the goal. The goal was just 1 month. So 1 month turned into the entire winter, and Boyan and I just continued training outside, running up and down stairs. A lot of the land workouts that we learned when we were rowing at Northeastern. And in the spring of 2012, we started using social media and a blog to talk about this November project as if we were hosting workouts, which was total baloney. And Boyan had coached at Syracuse, which is the Division I rowing program, and I'd coached at Northeastern. And so we were used to hosting a space and being able to speak to athletes and say, all right, quiet down. The workout today is XYZ. So it was like somewhat legit, even though we were total con artists. And that spring, summer, and fall, we grew this Boston group, which we call a tribe, from the two of us until 300 people training at the Harvard Stadium. And so
Wait. How fast did you go to 300?
So it was probably, I think, March, April, May, April. I should do my own history homework here, but I think it was like around April. We had the first person show up. Her name's Sarah Wild. She's super fast. We did the workout, just the three of us. And the word spread. We started tapping some of our old teammates and bringing your friends. And it was a lot of really serious athletes at first. And then there was a lot of help on social media and a lot of people with a pretty good following here and there that made it awesome. And so that was a Boston story. What really was crazy was then that very next January in 2013, it turned into a movement when people that we were either related to or had gone to college with or even were a part of the November Project in Boston wanted to start their own tribe in different cities. And that was when it went from being this weird subculture training fight club thing to a true movement. And at the end of 2013, we were actually in 7 cities, and it just kept growing from there. As we sit here today in 2017, May 2nd, we are in 36 cities around the world. The sun rises. Actually, the workout's long over in Hong Kong as they pass the sunrise to the 4 tribes in Europe and on to the rest of the tribes here in North America. So it's challenging the way people think that they have to reach for their wallet to get fit because all the workouts are free. The only things that we demand are that you show up on time, that you're kind, and that you work your butt off. So it's for all ages, shapes, and sizes. Yes, your grandmother can come and just walk the workout, but she's going to walk her ass off. You know what I mean? And so we expect that people will be outwardly supportive to one another, and it creates this really cool community. You know, this day and age, people want to take the word community and spread it thin and put a nice layer of community on everything. Whether you're a bank, whether you're a brand, whether you're a surf gang, you want the word community. And I think that if anyone who's listening ever does show up to November Project, you get a very true dose of what it all means. And that's what November Project started as, grew to, and if you ever get there at 629 in any of these 36 tribes around the world, you'll meet a lot of really upbeat people that seem to know each other, but they're really just kind of vibing off of one another and having a great time before they bust their butt for an hour.
Wow. So wait, I have a few questions. 6:29 a.m. every city?
Well, yeah. So I act like it's 6:29 in every city because it's like it shortens the conversation, but some are 6:15, some are 6, some are but like who cares? Like, I mean, 6:29.
I love it.
The real answer is they're different based on those cities' tribes and their commuting patterns, the availability of the leaders who created each tribe, blah, 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 blah. For example, in Edmonton, A lot of those folks come from outside of the city, up in Alberta, drive into the city to do the workout, drive back out of the city to go shower and eat their frosted mini wheats, and then go back into the city. So based on that back and forth nonsense, they go a little bit earlier than 6:29.
So one more question.
Well, no, this is a podcast. You have like 1,000
there's
more.
a million
That's
more
what we're
questions.
doing here.
But just about November Project,
Yeah.
what is the workout? I mean, I went to one and it was awesome because it was like the
Which one did you go to?
5K day.
In Balboa?
No, it was in Pacific Beach. On Mission Bay, it was pitch black, foggy, couldn't see a thing. And there were so many people there. They were so excited. They
the
were
Sunrise
laughing.
6K, right?
They were smiling. They had a lot of energy for 6:29. I was half asleep, and
Right.
you basically got there, and you're like 5K, and I was like, sweet, because that's all I can do is run.
Right.
I'm not very good at burpees.
The workout is, it's going to be a variation. It's going to be different. Nearly every time you go, it's going to be different. The leaders take a lot of pride in mixing things up, but also keeping the same baseline level of body weight movements, burpees, planking, rolling around on the ground, and it's a lot of play. And then there's the running piece. We always talk about how we trick a lot of adults into running a lot, and yeah, we're not a run club and we're not a boot camp, and we pride ourselves on not having those titles, those labels, because I mean, we always joke that if we were November Project, the Run Club, it wouldn't have exploded the way it has, because I think a lot of people, even those of us who run quite a bit, when asked, "Are you a runner?" Yeah, we're kind of on the fence, right? And that's it's kind of an intimidating thing, right? Run Club. In the title, you think you know exactly what's going on there, and I think boot camps have their own kind of stigma or whatever, but. Yeah, we're really proud of the variation, and I think we have helped a lot of either new athletes kind of find some identity of like where to start, because it is really encouraging for someone to show up who's super out of shape or super maybe their fitness has been very dormant since the last time they competed in college or in the Olympics or in high school or whatever, but also all ages. So you'll see some parents bring their kids, and you'll see grandparents bring their grandkids. It's a really special thing, and I think, just to give any listeners like some context, the workouts in Boston these days can grow, as big as 6, 7, 8, 9,000 people on a Wednesday morning, and the one here in San Diego can get as big as a couple hundred. And so it's not like your boot camp that you're envisioning. It's not like the Run Club with all the skinny white dudes in the short shorts that are going to disappear and prove how fast they are. The workouts churn. It's super upbeat and almost campy and fun.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was a motley crew, I could say.
Right.
There's old people, young people,
right,
fat people, skinny people, in shape people,
right,
not in shape people.
Right. Really, really ugly people.
No, everybody's
really
beautiful.
Great looking people.
In San Diego, everybody's beautiful.
Right.
But seriously, everybody was so encouraging. So there's like a little like mantra before you start, and that varies by city, right?
It varies by city. So the leaders are they're building these tribes because they believe in their city. And there aren't a lot of rules in that they kind of have to do, and the things that we all do. But the workout in almost every single city begins with the leaders looking at their clock and recognizing that it's 6:29 or it's 6:15 or whatever time you start. Getting everyone, come on in, guys, bring it in nice and tight. I mean, it feels like, I don't know, I didn't play high school football, but that kind of vibe. Bring it in, guys, bring it in a little bit tighter. All right. And then there's some sort of a greeting. In different cities, it'll sound or look or feel differently, but it usually has to do with some kind of, guys, I'm really glad you're here. For those of you guys who are here, this is awesome. For those of you guys who are brand new, show of hands who's brand new. And that's always a cool moment, because almost every single workout, there's at least one new person, if not dozens. They're brought into the family with open arms and supported for sure.
Yeah, I got a few hugs.
Yeah,
right away. I was like,
and then
whoa,
that's usually where it goes. I don't want to say that every city does this, but it's very normal to hear one of the leaders, we call them co-leaders, say, before we get going, turn to 3 people that you don't know, give them a big bear hug. None of this hips out business. None of this broski, like slap one hand and bring them all the way in. Full bear hug, both arms, and then tell them you're glad they're here. Now, it feels a little bit cultish, right? But I think that we've come too damn far with our smartphones and all of our, kind of closed-mindedness, where now if we're nice to each other, it feels cultish or weird. Like, so anyway, a lot of the Scrooges don't exist for very long at November Project because it's just too nice. And so turn to give out 3 big bear hugs. In San Diego, they will do what's called a bounce. We do the bounce in every city where literally like popcorn, these athletes of all ages, shapes, and sizes start jumping up and down. And then usually like kind of like a chant or like a rap concert somewhere in the middle, one of the leaders will say like, repeat after me. And they say some nonsense. And then they just like a barking back and forth. And it's hilarious and great. Here in San Diego, they finish with repeat after me. And I'm gonna have you do this. Repeat after me. Be happy.
Be happy.
Be strong.
Be strong.
Be bright.
Be bright.
NPSD.
NPSD.
Which stands for November Project San Diego.
Ah.
And that comes out of these people's mouths like cannon fire. I mean, they're psyched to say it because it's like their mantra. It's like their thing.
You are psyched right now. It's awesome.
Can you say it back? Be happy.
Be happy.
Be strong.
Be strong.
Be bright.
Be bright.
NPSD.
NPSD.
Right. And then they usually turn it over and say, all right, so Ashley's going to explain the workout or whatever. And then she's like, guys, we're going to do 1,000 laps or whatever for 40 minutes or whatever. Ready, go. And you're kind of tricked into like, all right, I can handle this. Even though we're all screwed, like we're all going to end up pretty beat down.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember doing it, and by 8 o'clock in the morning, I think we were done at like 7 actually, because it was just a 5K that day.
That's right.
I felt like I'd done more by 8 o'clock that morning than I'd done most mornings.
Well, and you did great. I remember that. You did great.
Oh, you're sweet. But I just felt like so loved, and what a good way to start your morning. So I get why it's spread, because you just feel damn good in the morning. But this podcast is about having a wild idea worth living. You're living this wild idea, but when did you get the idea that this wild idea you had with just your buddy was going to spread and that you could leave your office job and do this?
There were a couple moments along the way where we thought, wow, this group called November Project is universal. I guess the word is universal, right? Like this idea of like an adult gym class, recess, social hour support group of good, fun, like that. We had this crazy thing. So I think that when we started seeing how successful it was in a place that was very different from Boston, Massachusetts. Boston, Massachusetts is a very historic old place with college kids who sleep in, don't come to November Project, but it's kind of a tucked in city where people, they measure their lives against one another frequently. And it does matter what neighborhood you live in, and people are pretty serious about life and, climbing the ladder, I think. And I love Boston. But the first 7 cities that had it, and I don't think these 7 cities get clumped in ever, but it went from Boston to Madison, Wisconsin to San Francisco, Edmonton, Alberta. And then the 3 that came on to make it 7 were Denver, Washington, D.C., and then here in San Diego. And those cities are so vastly different in the culture, in the style, in the ways in which you think people would come together to be social, to meet singles, to train outside with their family.
I actually tell all my single girlfriends, go to November
they should.
Project.
There's some action there.
There's some like really good looking guys. They all have jobs.
Yeah.
And which is big in San Diego.
Yeah.
Especially
good looking
for a
guys.
surfer.
They all have jobs. They don't have shirts.
And they drive cars.
Right. Yeah. So all right. So to answer your question though, I think when you can see it doing so well here, when the 3 fearless women who created November Project San Diego with true passion and ownership and excitement and creativity, Ashley, Jesse, and Lauren, when you saw it working here under palm trees, and you could see it at the foot of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. in the snow, in the dark, also at -30 in Edmonton, Alberta, like you start to think like, wait a minute, wait, pause, hang on, turn CNN down. The world actually might be good. This might actually be good all over the fill in the blank. So that's when we began starting to talk about what we call world takeover. And the crazy idea is that kindness and hard work and inclusive vibes are universal. And we said it with a ton of confidence and a dash of like kind of being cocky. But as these tribes continue to pledge and then become official, 36 tribes later in 7 different countries around the world that pass a sunrise, across 36 tribes. I think that's proving itself right.
What's so interesting is that it's free. And usually I think people value things when they pay for it. But you've made them value something free by doing something pretty different. It's not like a hazing thing. It's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe you can point it out, but there's something there that people show up when it's free, which they don't. Usually people only show up to a trainer because they're paying them.
Yeah, I mean, the fitness landscape here in San Diego is saturated for sure. And so there is something valuable about going to a trainer or to a gym or to a whatever, but I think there's some boredom for sure, but I still think the hardest part about Barry's boot camp and the hardest part about CrossFit and November Project San Diego and going surfing is when the alarm clock goes off.
True.
And so the big difference with our space and whoever shows up to Barry's boot camp is that when you walk in the door there, because you're a paying customer, you're going to get served not only a workout, but an experience. The music will be up. This will be the workout. This is whatever. Turn and give someone a high five. But no one is really owning it as much as the members of November Project. They feel like shareholders just by having their butt cheeks sitting there, getting ready for the workout to start at 6:28 in the morning. And so the vibe is unmatched. And I think that's why it works, is because these folks really do love each other. And it's so that it's hard to beat. You look at some of these tribes, best in Baltimore, best in Milwaukee, best in Philly, best in Boston. I mean, they're not winning, best underground boot camp, pretend cult workout. They're winning best workout in Boston. So there's something that's also authentic about the output too. It's not just a jolly fat camp for fun people that are dorks. It's like there's real running, and you saw it with that 5K. You didn't win.
No.
There was a dozen women that beat you. You know what I mean? So it's like,
no, I actually beat all the women.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
No women beat me.
You were the first woman?
I was the first woman.
No way.
I swear to God, I was the first woman.
What was your time?
It was under 21. It was under 20.
I'm going to have to check that result.
You can go check that result, but no other woman beat me that day, but definitely guys beat me, and I was kind of bummed. I ran in college. Come on.
I barely believe you, but I believe you.
Okay.
Where'd you run in college?
You have to believe me. I ran at a crappy
Come on, say it. I'm not going to take over the podcast. Where'd you run?
Emory University.
Thank you.
But I only ran for 2 years there, and I played soccer. So,
casual soccer ball.
So I played soccer and ran, but I'm really competitive. And I just wanted to, I don't know. I was lucky that day.
And you came in that
I think
morning.
The fastest girl must have been tired that day. I think they'd already had they'd had a race.
Hey,
the day
I'll
before.
look at the pictures. I'm sure you won.
Look at the pictures. So let's go back to La Jolla,
we have
California.
2 visitors still.
Oh, that's so cool. So you can talk to them. So I want to go back to La Jolla, California, because you moved here from Boston. So what do you think of San Diego?
Oh, we got Jay on the line.
This is going to be so fun for my podcast
Jay
editor.
Pasternak, or whatever his last name is. Hang on a second. Okay, what was the question?
So for the audience listening, if this isn't edited out, we are doing Instagram Live, which we're going to start doing for some podcasts.
All of them.
I think so. As long as they're
We've made the commitment here that we're going to do better social media from May 2nd, 2017 onward.
So I just had to admit to Brogan that I really hate social media, but now that I have a podcast, I have to do social media.
Okay, but while we're talking about this, and then I'll give you your podcast back, what images that you post on your personal account get the highest traction? Say it.
Bikini shots.
Bikini shots.
Crazy.
For me, it's stuff that I post about my beret.
It's probably pictures of your wife.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Brogan has a really hot yoga wife.
And
Goldie.
She's smart and fun to be with.
So,
it was her birthday yesterday.
That's awesome. Happy
Shout out
birthday,
to Goldie. She's in her late 20s.
So we'll go back to talking about San Diego, but let's just talk about how we met. Someone introduced us, and the way that Brogan approached me was all of a sudden I got this random text message from a Boston number, had no idea who it was, and it was a video text message with some guy wearing a beanie. And I was like, this is spam. This is so weird. And then I hit play, and it was like, hey, this is Brogan. This is my alley. This is my street. And it was like a full tour of his house and where he lived. And I was like, what a freak. Who sends you at the first meeting, not an email? So we were introduced over email. Instead of emailing me back, the guy just like sends me this super random text message. But I had to think about it, and I stopped and I wondered about it. And in your message, you said, hey, I need you to respond back with another video text message. And
I got to stop you right there. So in my line of work, which I'm not sure what that is, we call it a short film. And I think
short film.
I think I outlined that in the first short film that I sent you.
Yes.
And then I said, this is how I communicate. And I wasn't that creepy. I mean, I was creepy, but not that creepy.
No, it wasn't creepy, but it was just a disruptive way to
make you
meet someone. And I thought it was genius. I was like, wow, I thought about this guy. I remembered him. It was disruptive. Goldie, don't worry.
I was wearing my wedding band.
Yeah, but I just thought it was really clever. So I just remember that was a really great tactic to introduce someone. So I just want to know what other stuff do you do to like get people's attention like that.
Ravello Metal says awesome.
Specifically.
Crushing it, Shelby.
Specifically, how did you introduce yourself to Goldie?
Wait, that's all we're doing on the short film stuff? So the text, it comes from being lazy, where you basically do a selfie and you say, this is a short film. And we hide behind the title short film so that we pretend like we're doing something, very thoughtful. And then you responded like after a couple days or something.
Well, I had to be in my North Face.
You were at, and you put on your North Face jacket.
I put on my North Face
You were
jacket
at like
for you.
Powderhorn or something.
I was somewhere in Utah.
Yeah, skiing. And I think you were like mostly charming, but a little awkward.
I'm always awkward.
But mostly charming. All right, move on to Goldie.
So how did you
try your own
Goldie?
short films. Thank you.
Yeah, no, so if you want to get someone's attention,
send them a video. And then it's like FaceTime, but then they can kind of like put you off until later.
It was really clever. I mean, I wonder if that would work for
genius.
a job interview.
Hey.
I think that would work. So, or to meet a girl. So did that work with Goldie?
What if you just sent your resume of you reading your resume line by line?
That would be epic.
Hi, Brogan Graham. Yeah. Marketing manager.
Is that what you were? Were you a marketing manager? Let's go back to you real quick. So what were you?
We do the Goldie question. Okay. Because it's her birthday.
Okay, Goldie. How did you meet Goldie?
I met Goldie in Boston in 2011 in the spring. And I have this theory about cities where if you chop them up like a pie based on interest and where you go and how you get there, like a big city like Boston all of a sudden is pretty little. So like, for example, if you get a smoothie at that place once a week, show of hands. Okay, great. All you people go over there. Okay, if you get a smoothie in the smoothie group from that place once a week and you ride your bike every day, show of hands. Okay, new, smaller section. And then you go all the way through it. Smoothie over there, once a week, ride your bike every day, and you do yoga at least once a week. Chop, 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 until there's not that many of us cruising around, and we're sharing a small space. And her name is Goldie, and she looks like a Goldie with long blonde hair. And there's not a lot of her. And I made loud chimpanzee noises until she followed me to the cave.
So she was running, and you met her running. Let's tell the story.
Yeah, we were both running, apparently. I don't remember this, but she wrote about it in her journal, that she saw the man of her dreams. You think I'm making that up?
No, I read it. I read it in an article.
You read her journal?
No, there was an article written about you. I did my research, and it was Goldie talked about how you guys met. She said there was a guy running.
Yeah,
and that day she saw.
Yeah. So then we had like a lot of these like near encounters. So like that was probably 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years before we actually ever shook hands and met. We had a friend try and set us up on like a date or something, and I dropped the ball on that. And then, because I moved to Florida, which is like a big mistake. I think one of your questions on the sheet is big mistake or something. We'll go back to Florida.
Okay.
And then we rode bikes at the midnight marathon, which happens at midnight the morning of the Boston Marathon, where all the roads are closed and you ride bikes in the rain wearing wedding dresses.
Was that your first date?
Yeah, not really. So we kind of lived in this gray zone of like we just like went to each other's stuff. Like I had a posse of dudes riding bikes up the marathon course. I was like, do you want to come? She came, November Project was a really easy one. And if she were sitting here, she'd be like, when I started going, there were only like 3 or 4 people. She doesn't talk like that. She'd be like, there's only 4 people.
But she's a hot yoga chick. So
And she started bringing a lot of like Lululemon models.
Perfect.
And that's helpful in getting men and women. Don't quote me on that.
So
are we recording
girlfriends?
this?
We are. I hope so. I hope there's an SD card
Let's see
in
if
here.
Jay has any questions.
So having good-looking girls is helpful for growing social media, growing followings.
I didn't say that.
Did that happen?
I think that the first ring of people that were showing up to November Project were pretty serious athletes. I will say that. And so the workouts and the movement has a backbone of we're going to throw down. Like this is going to be a pretty serious hour, and you're most likely going to be sore. And if it's done right, you won't work out for the rest of the day. We were really timely about putting social media, including our blog, live before noon the same day as every workout. And in Boston, that was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it's a lot of content. Even if the blogs were like, hey, we ran the stairs, Johnny threw up, here's a picture of Johnny. But still get it out. I always say that, and Jay, if you're listening, I always say that good content in super live time is great, but great content next week sucks, right? So everyone that's tinkering for the right photo and the right thing, and I'm going to almost finish the blog, and then I'm going to draft the tweet. It sucks. It's dead. It's over. The world is moving too quick, and especially with social.
Great. This podcast is going to be like
this podcast comes out
May 20th.
Totally.
I'm sorry.
Totally. All May beret will almost be over by that point, but we'll get to that in a second. So anyway, we were very diligent, especially my co-founder Boyan, about getting that blog up no matter what. I always suggested, I was like, dude, let's just put it up on Thursday. Then that way, it'll like be like a recap, whatever. And he was so serious about no way. And he had this theory, and I stand by it today. When you and it applies to your experience here at November Project San Diego. When you left at 8 a.m, you just finished saying it. You had this great like high of your day is going to be awesome. And I think in the 9-to-5 world, in some of these big cities in the East or wherever, you kind of take that into work with you. And then, Susan in accounting looks a little tired, and you're kind of like, hey, Susan, she said, where'd you come from? And you're like, well, I'll tell you. And you're having these conversations without even trying. And I think by the time that noon, early afternoon comes, you're kind of coming down from that high a little bit. And so if we can get your images up and tell that story digitally and tag you in the photo and do the bragging for you before you even get to lunch, and you see your workmates around the water cooler, it's like they're asking about it before you even bring it up. I mean, we thought that was a pretty good strategy, and I think it's worked out for sure. Smart.
So how many people do November Project around the world? What do you think?
I think we're going to show just the host now.
Hi, guys.
I think that in the summertime, between 5 and 10,000 on a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. So it's Mondays, Wednesdays?
Right. So every single tribe goes through a pledging process of kind of proving that they are the right leaders and that they can build something for a couple months before they become officially November Project Dallas or whatever. That's only an okay example, but we'll keep going. And then they become official, and then they have just a Wednesday to build a group that is pretty large and pretty legit. And then we say that they kind of earn themselves another day. Usually they add a Friday, and then they go back and add a Monday. Here in San Diego, it's Mondays and Wednesdays. But it's usually never 2 days in a row. It's never in the PM, and it's never on the weekend. We do events here and there, but you can always count on these groups being a morning before work.
Wednesdays are the biggest?
Well, yeah. So following that rant, every single one of these tribes has a Wednesday for sure.
Cool.
Even if they're brand new and they only have 1 day a week.
That seems like that would be the biggest day.
Well, it's kind of an anchor in the middle of the week, right? So it's like
you're
you haven't
there.
Yeah, you haven't left yet for the bachelorette party.
Yeah.
And then you're also still
home.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Genius. It's a stroke of genius.
There's a great podcast already on the Rich Roll podcast with you where you explain the November Project. I thought you guys did a really good job explaining it. So I'm going to plug Rich Roll because it's so good. But I do want to ask you one more question about the November Project.
Have you had Rich Roll on here?
No, we should have him.
Consider this a call out.
Okay,
Rich, if you're listening,
But we surf first, and then we have beer.
Dude, I tried this with him. I was like, come down. I tried this with him for the podcast, for his thing. I was like, come down to San Diego. We'll surf. We'll go to November Project. You'll know what the heck you're talking about. You don't just do your homework. You actually experience it. And he never came through.
Well, Brogan said he was a beginner surfer, and you caught like the wave of the day today.
I caught the wave of the day.
I was so impressed on your 10-foot.
I also think that's what you say to everybody.
No, I don't say that to everybody. Jed Knoll. Greg Knoll's son shaped his longboard, which is pretty impressive.
And then the funding was sourced by the November Project community on Facebook.
So
my buddy Kev Scam.
Friends.
Yeah, well, $5 at a time. I have friends. Yeah. Once a lifetime.
So basically, Brogan is so cool. People like him so much that his friends bought him a surfboard, which is really nice. And that's a legit surfboard, especially for your first surfboard.
I think it's awesome.
And how tall are you, can I ask?
I'm 6.5 feet.
That's impressive. So tall surfer, did a really good job.
And tell him about my hat.
And he's wearing a white beret.
No, the surf hat.
The surf hat. Oh, yeah, he wore a dorky little surf hat. That was legit.
My wife wants me to wear it because
he's not going to look super old like me. So it's good. You want to have sun protection. So just some memorable success stories you can share from the November Project. Maybe 2 or 3.
2 or 3 memorable success stories from the November Project. Well, I can tell you what we're ramping up for, and I'll tell you what's the story. So there's this thing that back in 2013, I told you about that first year in Boston, the second year in 7 cities, and as that year closed, my buddy Boyan and I thought that we should get all these leaders together because, I don't know, we wanted to know each other. We all followed the crap out of each other on social, and there's so much energy, and we wanted to know more about, kind of in a lot of cases, we knew some of these folks from Northeastern. One of the leaders was my brother, but we thought it would be so cool to get everyone in the same place, right? And so Boyan and I kind of put our credit cards down and figured out how to fly everyone to the same place. In this case, we thought because one of our main pillars of who we are and what we do is being weatherproof. So we thought, well, we can't go to San Diego. We just can't, right? That's too easy. We can go to San Diego and ride waves. Well, maybe. So we went to Edmonton, and the 7 cities, so roughly 14 people, we all sat around a table in a conference room in a hotel and talked about different workouts and what we were doing and strategy and recruiting and social media and writing and I think recruiting was probably one of the biggest things because back then it was build it bigger. How big is your tribe? Oh, DC's got 500. Denver still has 90. It's and that was a big idea within the idea, right? I think Boyan's wife and my girlfriend at the time, Goldie, I think that they were supportive of that idea. The summit, we call it the Leadership Summit. But it wasn't cheap.
Yeah, you were self-funding it.
Right. So it's kind of we could keep those thousands of dollars for grocery, or, okay, we're going to Edmonton to drink beers.
Or rent or a vacation.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So, we always think of that as a dumb, risky, we're not sure what we're doing moment. But it felt right. And seeing all those people spill out of those doors and hug it out, as people that were just meeting each other, but they were all leaders of these tribes in this experimental social thing that was working, was one of the most special moments for sure. And we brought 2 young filmmakers with us who had been shooting a bunch just kind of whenever they brought their cameras, childhood friends from New Hampshire, and their film company's called Dooster. And we brought them. We even got them plane tickets. We we're you have to pay for your own food and you have to share a bed, but you're going to come. And they were psyched. And so they shot everything. And I clearly remember sharing a hotel room with Boyan and those 2 dudes, on our very last night after all the other leaders had gone back. And we were just so exhausted looking at each other I think that was for sure worth it. I think we have to do this every year. It feels now, 2 days later, more like a movement, truly, than it did before the summit. And I think the guesswork going into it was that if our leaders feel a true connection and a friendship, the way that their respective tribes do that they lead, this isn't just a bunch of one-offs, it's actually a movement and it's connected. And so that was 2013. That was the first summit. We did it 2014 in Madison, Wisconsin with help from the North Face, and that's where the partnership began. 2015 was in Utah. By that point, we had nearly 1,000 people just traveling to the mountains to run with us and do the endurance challenge and party. Last year, 2016, was in Blue Mountains, Ontario, at a ski resort. And there's well over 1,000 people there. And then this summer, the biggest event of our existence that we're getting ready for, we're actually bringing everybody back to Boston. And so the 5th annual summit will be June 10th and 11th.
Wow. How many people?
Well, now if you think about it, from 7 cities to 36, and with almost like a homecoming kind of vibe, like a Grateful Dead vibe of like, hey man, I got a running injury. I can't even race. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go meet people. It's become this thing. So we could see anywhere from 1,250 to 2,000 people. I would doubt that we have over 2,000, but it ends up being a weekend of Friday morning training, exploring a city on Friday while all the leaders are with Boyne and I doing some bonding and cult stuff. Friday night, a pretty chill dinner or something. Saturday's a huge race at the Endurance Challenge put on by the North Face, which is a new location in Massachusetts. We call it Boston, but it's really a little bit outside of the city. And then we're putting on a huge party that night in South Boston at like this outdoor lawn space that's incredible. So, yeah. So tell your single friends to buy airplane tickets
to Boston.
And between now and June to come out to the workout and earn their November Project spray painted shirts.
So I actually came on the day you were spray painting a shirt. I felt like guilty. Like I didn't really earn my shirt.
No, you did though.
It was awesome.
Well, that's the thing with November Project. If you go once, we say if you go once, you're a member for life.
Got it.
So really the smartest people are the ones who go on a 5K day, get a shirt, lie about getting first, and then never, ever
didn't get first.
Come back.
Out of all the women, I definitely came.
Again.
You gotta check those stats.
I think you're playing your cards well. Rich Roll didn't show up.
Okay, so Brogan, thank you for that. We had a little guacamole chip beer intermission.
And it was so good.
So thank you, Johnny, for making guacamole. So my question is, you have these summits, you have these leaders. At first, you funded it yourself. Mm-hmm. How did you go from self-funding to actually getting someone to fund it for you?
Someone to believe.
Yeah, but that's the trick, right? All these people have these wild ideas. It's theirs. How do you get sponsored, basically?
Well, I think for us, it was a really good example of timing and the right people. And I think that I talked to a lot of people who have a good setup with a partnership or a sponsorship. That's definitely a big piece of it. So in 2014, we were approached by the North Face, and it was actually really cool because the North Face is a huge company, a big worldwide brand, right? And I think the first conversations were like, you guys are cool, like let's do something, right? And I think that we've been so agenda free for so long. I mean, at the workouts, there's no like, hey, can I make an announcement about my kids' bake sale? Because we'd be there all morning. So we were so agenda free. There's no banner. There's no just so
I like that. No one's allowed to make an announcement about anything.
Well, because I think that nice. I mean, it started in Boston because the Boston Marathon, there's so many people that are charity runners that everyone has a good cause and a good reason and a good event. And so the minute you let that go, it's like, it's wildfire. So agenda free. The woman who was in charge of the global marketing team was tasked with helping launch the training platform for the North Face. In 2014, it was called Mountain Athletics. And the concept around that was for athletes who want to train for snow, more or less, how do you get fit when the snow's all gone? And so that was an apparel line. It was also a lifestyle training regiment. There was an app, and it was in-person workouts in these markets, and it was really cool. That woman actually got a copy of the Runner's World magazine that we're actually on the cover of in December 2013. And she said, like, we got to do something with these dudes. So I
remember that.
Right.
I remember seeing that, being like, who are these guys?
Yeah. So that was kind of gave us like a little bit of legitimacy.
So you got in the runner's world because of a friend who worked at New Balance?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know how that inner working goes. But the dude who was supposed to write a half-page article came out and thought that he was going to write some half-page article, and he fell into the Kool-Aid that is November Project. And so
you guys concocted a really good Kool-Aid.
And he wrote an epic, full piece that ended up being 10 pages in the magazine and a fold-out cover. And it was like right around the time when the brand at Runner's World was changing their image, the way they spoke, the way their layouts were, and the photography to support it all. So the timing was awesome. And so, again, good people and timing. And the former editor-in-chief, David Willey, came out to a lot of the workouts, brought his whole team. But again, timing and good people, right? And so were we... for the years leading up to that, losing sleep, hoping that one day we could land a cover of Runner's World magazine. No way. Because had we gone that route with that goal, it may have happened, but we probably would have driven ourselves crazy. So these things were just happening. And so back to the North Face, with that piece of media in her hand and the contact with us, we set out in 2014 just to try a partnership. It was like kind of like a soft launch, basically. And the team at the North Face gave us the resources to get into the Endurance Challenge races for free, bring along some of our friends, maybe a dozen or so bibs, and use those as rally points for some of these tribes to kind of go and meet each other and hang out.
Smart.
And then, and this was the really killer one, was they funded our summit in Wisconsin. So we went, 2013 was the one we did out of pocket. In Wisconsin, we were able to fly everyone in from 16 cities. So it went from, because Runner's World, it went from 7 cities to 16 cities. And then all of a sudden, Boyan and I were looking at each other like, whoa, we're in trouble, right? If the summer was going to live on, we needed to take someone's help.
Yeah.
In 2014, we weren't sure what that would look like. The North Face wasn't sure if we were like smart or like criminals or what. So it was like, we kind of did this nice, it was almost an entire 12-month, dance of like, I think this could work, but we're not bound yet. And it was awesome. And so at the end of 2014, we signed a 2-year partnership, and we're both able to leave our jobs and access resources to build this leadership summit, gear for our leaders, as well as a travel budget to go to some of these tribes, whether they're brand new, maybe they're some of the newer tribes that we kind of come and work with in person about things that are working in other cities. And in those days, 2015 and 2016, we were on the road all the time and living the dream. I mean, for folks out there that are trying to, be that pro surfer or just live that van life, like I'm living proof. Like, it's worth it. Go, like, press the gas in all corners of your life to make it happen, because, I'll be a gray-haired old man one day. But in 2016, I was on the road 3 weeks out of every month, and you talk about living the dream. I mean, trips to Asia and Europe and every corner of North America, like, the travel bug is real. And when you're actually able to itch it, it's a really cool thing.
Wow. So I have a million questions. First
Go.
is, you should eat some more guacamole. So the leaders aren't paid, but it seems like, so how do they do it for free and get so excited about it and keep doing it?
So we say, Boyan and I used to say that we were the wealthiest guys in Boston, because you are at the best party. You're in the center of the most social scene, including the clubs and all the dating services. And you're making a lot of change, And so people talk about making their cities better. Our co-leaders in these cities, because of these tribes, they're empowered.
That is really true. All of my jobs in life, the one where I impacted the most change was where I taught surfing. Like, people quit their jobs, divorced their husbands,
Right.
got new husbands.
I mean, husbands are a dime a dozen.
It was an all-girl surf
Got
school.
another husband.
But I imagine with the
rid of
November
that,
Project, people completely change their lives. Does that happen? Do you see like dramatic weight loss or?
Yeah, I think that, like, when you boil it down, it's so simple. It's a morning workout. It's free. It's happening no matter what. And if it rains and you don't get out of bed, we will have a good time without you. We will welcome you back whenever you do come back, and we'll ensure you that it'll be better with you there. But I mean, it's pretty simple. And so inside that, if someone is any age, pick any age, and they're there to lose weight, well, you can access November Project for that, for sure. Consistency in working out will get you closer to goals, whether it's losing 10 pounds or getting faster or whatever. If someone's there to socialize, that is readily available because of the sit next to someone you don't know, or partner with someone you don't know, or grab a team of 4, or whatever the setup is for that day. And so I guess I'm using those as examples of, like, people come to this 1 hour offering in the morning to kind of take whatever they want. people are there for many different reasons, but it's pretty cool to see how people's lives change. I mean, we were living in Boston with a lot of our former college friends, and when November Project started, like we still saw them, but not as often because we'd surrounded ourselves with like-minded people, and they weren't all athletes, but they did care about being driven into that community.
I love, though, that saying that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
And so if you get up in the morning, you're with good people, you start to change.
Sure.
We didn't talk much about San Diego. What's
Okay.
it like living in San Diego? What have you learned from surfing?
Okay, what's it like living in San Diego, and what have I learned from surfing? What is it like living in San Diego? Living in San Diego is as advertised. So anyone that's ever like landed and looked out in the marina and looked at San Diego and been like, wow, what would it be like to live here? It's like you think.
No,
It's
it
sunny.
totally sucks. Don't move here.
It's sunny.
Just
It's
kidding.
awesome. People are pretty active. I will say though that it's probably hard to notice on vacation. Maybe you can. I always thought it was hard to notice when I was visiting how slow it truly is. It's
Compared to Boston.
well compared to anywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
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 People are a little slower.
Yeah. I mean, it's more fast paced in Tijuana. I mean, it's more fast paced in anywhere. I mean, so that to me was a big adjustment, and for my wife Goldie, and but you can go outside and run every day in a t-shirt. It's awesome. You can access trail and ocean and anything you want. I've gotten into cycling here. I've gotten into, I always remember in Boston, you have to ride pretty far to get out of the city to then kind of start your road ride. Whereas here it's like, you just go, you ride the hills in La Jolla.
I love that you said it's so slow paced. It just makes me laugh.
And then your question was about surfing. Then you said,
Yeah, what did you learn from surfing?
what did I learn from surfing is that I think that patience is key. And I think that it was always interesting looking at surfing because it was always like one of those things like, a kid sees a musician and they're like, I want to play guitar like that guy, right? And so you see surfing and you're like, well, I want to ride down a wave. I want to carve down a wave, right? And what's really frustrating about surfing, I think for some people, is really addictive. So what's really frustrating is that you can't do that on day 1 or day 100. And so even when you get pretty good, from putting the board on top of your car to tying it down to getting the wetsuit on, paddle out, get the breaker waves. Oh shit, you're in the wave wash. Oh, get back on the board, back out. You could put 3 hours into your surfing experience in one day and really only be on a board, on a wave, surfing for 25 seconds. And so the patience kicks in. And I think that when you are addicted to that process, that whole thing, that's what makes you stick. And so I'm not much of a patient person, but something about the routine around everything for me has been as cool as standing on the board riding waves.
I want to talk to you about routines because you are a busy guy, in demand. You are not here a lot of the time. And you're now doing a lot of public speaking. You got asked to speak in front of Facebook, which is huge. And I want to talk to you about that. But do you have routines, habits, ways you eat, ways you train, things that you do every day, mantras you say that kind of have made you such a high performer and a good leader?
I do have some routines. I wake up early. I like to be standing, drinking a cup of coffee 90 minutes before a workout starts.
90 minutes?
Yeah.
So
do the math.
Yeah,
So 6:29, that's 4:59.
4:59.
Holding a cup of coffee. So if you're grinding beans at 4:45, so what time's your alarm? 4:30. So it's like, I'm a little bit insane about that. Because I feel like it's really lame, especially for me, kind of like one of the dudes who was around in the original days for November Project to show up and kind of be like, ugh, this sucks. So like, I do love November Project, but like, I gotta wake up too, right? So that's one of my routines, coffee. I'm a big coffee guy. I'm trying to get off like the afternoon coffees, but I live so close to Bird Rock Coffee and Bird Rock that like, it's so hard.
I love Bird Rock
so
Coffee.
that's routine. The public speaking stuff, kind of an unknown fact is that I studied theater in college. So the performance thing, and I came from a loud household of like funny people. So there's always like something about holding a space, like telling a really good story at a dinner table, and then, boom, punchline, right? So it's like there's always like some timing stuff around presenting, and I've found new ways and new routines for kind of organizing a presentation. Anyone whether it's those poor folks at Facebook or even the people that were at the creative mornings in San Diego. My style, I guess if I have one, is very free form and like really off the cuff. Like, don't bring your kids. There's gonna be some F-bombs, and it's like, it's colorful and it's active. And I try, especially in a situation with folding chairs and like indoor carpeting and like, styrofoam cups of coffee. In those settings, I think I have to crank it up even further to give you the experience as close as we could get to what November Project's vibe is. And sometimes that involves, taking out your smartphone and giving it to the person next to you and throwing your hands up in the air and screaming and getting people out of their chairs, because especially when it comes to some conferences, especially when it comes to folks that are, busting their butt with a 9 to 5, if I'm a breath of fresh air that can be like, dude, this sucks, but take off your lanyard and live a little bit for 5 seconds with me. I think people respond well to that. And if they don't, it's kind of like November Project. If they don't, they're probably not gonna like me at all. And that's fine. So my routines there are, and I've gotten a little bit better at it, but planning the topics inside of what this rant is going to look like, and have a little bit of an understanding of an arc, and then being able to play jazz on top of it. Because I'm never going to be the guy who, like you are, nails each question. I'm going to basically get halfway there and then just make it work.
But like, how do you get them to interact? Like that whole take out your cell phone out of your pocket, hand it to a stranger. Is that something that came up on the fly, or did you plan that?
So I think recently, especially in the last calendar year, there's been a lot of talk of this digital detox and the idea of like putting our phones down, and like that's been a popular anthem, and I mostly believe in that, actually, which is a little bit ironic because of how often myself and our co-leaders and our tribes and our members are on social and building on social and connecting. So digital is huge in what we do, and yet there's a huge value in like the workout starts and no one's on their phone for an hour, so I see both sides of it. And I think that when someone that you don't know grabs your phone, like try it, like wherever people are listening to this thing, all 10,000 of you,
50,000.
Give your phone to someone that you don't know and just be like, hey, can you hold this for a second? Because that's two scary things. It's interacting with a stranger, which I guarantee you're too scared to do. And then if you are brave enough, give them your phone and then go to the bathroom and then come back.
And what if they look through your photos?
Right. Could you imagine? Whoa. Like even when my wife grabs my phone, and I'm not a shady dude, I'm like, what do you need? It's like, there's something about these phones. So I feel like it's doing two things. When you take your phone out and give it to somebody next to you, it is hijacking every ounce of their attention, because no one can Instagram it live. No one can, grab a quote and tweet it. No one can grab a photo because their phone is 5 feet away, and it's awesome. So you get maximum attention, but then you also get this really free feeling. I mean, we've all been there where we're on our phone, we're grinding, we're trying to get that email, and then your phone dies, and there's like an oh shit moment. But then almost immediately after, you're like, I didn't realize that it's such a beautiful day, or something, And so all of a sudden it's like, there's like a breath of freedom. And I've been in these stressed out days where your phone dies, and it's like kind of a nice oasis until you do find that next terminal with an outlet,
You're so good in front of a crowd. So just to answer that question, is
Thank you, by the way.
No, you're really good. Do you prepare these tactics, or are they kind of just happen on the spot?
So all the best stuff is improv stuff. Everything that's funny is probably like off the cuff and a little bit interactive. And I like calling people out a little bit. There's always people that can take it, like there's always like, maybe someone who works there helps set it up, or like a camera person or something. There's always somebody you can kind of like poke fun at. Usually someone that you met that has a good vibe. And then I think that there's something really important about telling this November Project story, and I can always stand on the fact that the more times I tell it, no matter what the audience is, it's moving the movement forward. Oh yeah, I heard about that. My cousin does that in Baltimore. Oh, no way. I have a friend who does it in San Francisco. These conversations, just like the ones at the water cooler we talked about when we were building this on social media, these conversations, in my opinion, are just as valuable, if not more, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to visibility, when it comes to kindness and good stories. And so the process has to do with, getting getting myself to a point where I feel like I can tell a good story, and then I can almost directly say, okay, fine. That was a lot of talk. Let's move. Right? So here's a story. Even if I tell really well with a lot of volume and color and animation, I have everyone's attention when we get up out of our seats.
It's awesome. So now I want to talk to you about some hard stuff.
Here we go. Drugs.
Have you ever done drugs?
I've done drugs. No, I haven't. No, I'm not a drug. I married a yogi, so I don't do drugs.
That's good. I don't do drugs either. So my question really is, has there been a time where you were like, oh, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to make this work? Or I just totally mess this up. Like, failure is a big part of having a wild idea. And I don't think we talk about it enough. So has there been a time where you made a mistake and had to change, or you didn't know how you're going to make ends meet, but it happened?
Okay. So you're asking for like an epic, like a life shift.
I'm not asking for an epic.
But I have a recent failure that's really funny.
Okay.
So we put out a book last April called November Project, the book, the free fitness movement and how it's taking over the world. We call it November Project, the book. And on the 1-year anniversary of putting it out, which was a couple weeks ago, it was co-authored by 3 of us, myself, Boyan, who's the brains behind everything that happens, and Caleb Daniloff, the original dude who wrote the Runner's World. Yeah. Right. So Caleb, who's like a real writer, Boyan, who speaks better English than I do, and then I'm just like a lot of noise, right? Caleb was like, all right, hey guys, let's do like an online giveaway for the book. And like, we'll do like a hashtag thing and like photo contest. Great idea. And then he kind of turned to us and like, what ideas do you have? And then Boyan is like, well, let's see what BG comes up with. And then I'll shoot down all of his ideas except the one that we choose. That's kind of our process. And we thought it was really funny to do, oh man, explaining this is going to sound so stupid. Okay. We thought it was funny to do a tramp stamp contest.
Oh no.
So the tramp stamp contest, hashtag, and don't search it because no one did it, Tramp Stampede. And the idea was you could do a real tramp stamp, or you could Sharpie one on and post a photo using the hashtag Tramp Stampede. And we thought that was fucking hilarious. Like,
it's pretty funny.
And we kept saying it to each other on the phone call. We're like, Tramp Stampede. And we all laugh. Tramp Stampede. Tramp Stampede. And we put it live, and like you can tell an idea is a bad idea, like when you put it on Instagram and like it performs like really poorly, and we're like, oh, this was really stupid. And then you got to kind of stick to your guns. Like, no, we'll just let it. People are going to be slow. They'll start to post their photos slowly. Tramp Stampede. I think only 2 people posted, and I think we have nearly 30,000 followers. So it's tough, and people got offended. Like in Baltimore, people got offended and complained to their co-leaders, and I think in Philly as well.
Why did they get offended?
Well, I can't laugh that one off. I think the language tramp is kind of tough if we're like really going to boil down everything. And
got it.
And then maybe they were into farming. So a stampede could be like maybe a violent animal situation, animal on human. So Tramp Stampede. So anyway, if you're listening to this, unlikely, and you were offended by Tramp Stampede, well, we're sorry.
This is great.
I shouldn't laugh at us.
So this podcast is actually supposed to be the length of an easy run or a commute. We're going over, but you're really good to interviews.
Easy run or commute,
easy
or run
run
or
a commute.
Okay.
It's like a 45-minute run or an average commute, back and forth to work.
I learned this last summer in London. November Project London came on last September. When I was there, I didn't know this, and I pay attention to trends in running. London, at the stroke of 5, and all the bell towers go off, and like everyone comes out from their buildings. Huge run commute scene. So like dudes with backpacks and gals with backpacks, like with like their Dockers rolled up in their bag and their bottle in their hand, they're running 5 miles home. Wow. It's a real thing.
That's awesome.
You don't care.
No, I would totally do that.
Let's do the next one live from London.
Could run to work.
Run commute.
Still look okay. I mean, the problem with you're a girl, you're like sweaty.
Right.
I always wanted to bike to work, run to work, but even just going surfing and then going straight to work is a little challenging.
You could use those like wet naps.
No, you
that
can't.
they give you at like a wings joint?
I got yelled at.
Are you a healthy eater? Do you eat wings?
No.
Neither do I.
I'm really healthy.
Can you name someone that eats chicken wings?
Yeah.
So who in your life eats chicken wings?
My guess is Ben.
Okay.
Eats chicken wings.
I think my friend
Ben
Jay.
Cole.
My friend Jay Cruikshank eats chicken wings.
I know Jay. He definitely eats
like
those.
Yeah, like high end.
So yeah, I got yelled at once showing up to work when I was really young.
Covered in
after
chicken
surfing
wings.
with wet hair.
No way.
Yeah.
What was it? A corporate scene?
It was a corporate scene, but
Yeah.
it was a surf company, so I just thought that was ludicrous. I'm like, come on, this is a surf company. I went surfing. Anyways, that's why.
Hey, this is a little shout out. Do you know the guys who run a company called Matus?
I do, and that's the wetsuit I should have been wearing.
Great
today.
wetsuits.
Yes.
Legendary. People love them here.
John Campbell.
Those dudes want to start a November Project in North County. No, we're going to stay on this for a second.
All right, JVC, I think we should do it.
So here's the deal. These dudes have written me emails, made plans. They really want to start one, North County. But they're kind of dropping the ball. They're saying stuff like, well, we'll be there, rain or shine, unless the waves are good. Right? So it's like, okay, right away, strike one. Then these dudes were like, well, we'll come to a November Project San Diego workout. I was like, all right, cool. Well, that's kind of like a prereq. It's only 20 minutes away. They complained about the drive, and then they promised they were going to show up, and it rained, and they didn't show up. So shout out to Matus for making really good wetsuits, but not a good impression.
JVC, if that's you, I'm going to bust you on that. That's funny.
Anyway,
interesting.
Gentlemen, 629.
But they do make great wetsuits.
Balboa Park, every Wednesday forever, if you want to right the wrong.
So, a couple of questions. If you could go back, this is what I ask all of my interviewees on Wild Ideas Worth Living. If you could go back and tell your 15-year-old self, I don't even know what you were like at 15, but I imagine you were
so
cool
bad.
Kid.
I was so bad. I was so bad.
What would you tell your 15-year-old self if you go back and tell him one thing?
That you shouldn't be that stressed out about school. I was a bad student, but I think very, very secretly I was like, fuck, I'm screwing myself over. And then I think I was like kind of like a mature, it's like not really mature, but like I could speak to adults. Maybe that's what I mean. And so I wish I would have learned how to kind of finesse that.
You have good interpersonal skills.
Interpersonal.
Yeah.
So, and then I think that like, sometime around 15 actually is right around when, you're like an adult-ish that has the first couple rounds of, what I call world pressures. And I think they're all bullshit, actually, all of them. But when you're 15, teachers, older brothers, kids' parents, whether they like you or not, start saying stuff like, when are you doing driver's ed? When are you going to take your test? And if you were to write it down, they asked you, are you doing driver's ed when you take your test? But what's actually happening is it's like a little pressure, like, oh, do you have your shit together, young man? Has your family got your shit together? And so 15, and then it starts with the whole college thing. Have you applied to Brown or Yale? And then have you visited? Right? Where are you going next year? And then it goes right into college. Right, day one. Have you picked a major? Right? These are world pressures. No one gives a shit, but it's something you say to kind of like measure the life and progress of someone. Take dating. Right? You date someone in college, doesn't matter. You can date them the whole time. The minute you leave college, hey, are you gonna? Is this the one? Are you gonna get married? The minute you get married. How about kids, right? World pressures, they're all baloney. I wish I would have known back then that world pressures were nothing. And that's a tough one. That would be like some Jedi shit.
That is great advice, but you're not the only one who said that on this podcast, that they wish they didn't take themselves so seriously with schoolwork at 15. It's crazy. Little
fun fact. I've been thrown out of every school I've ever gone to. Seriously, that's in the book, November Project, the book by Rodale Publishing.
We're going to put that in the show notes. So why did you
How's this gonna go?
Thrown out? He just had a chip, so I'll ask him. I'm really curious to know the best reason you got thrown out of school for.
In 9th grade, I did a stink bomb in the cafeteria. Now, stink bomb, for those of you who were, in study hall studying, and you weren't hanging out with me and Josh Triller and Carlos WIWL, stink bombs are actually like, I always had this visual of like it's going off and you could see the smoke. And maybe they make them that way, but the way I know them from the day I got thrown out of school in 9th grade it's almost like a little vial, like a cologne sample or a perfume sample. And then you just kind of like toss that shit over your shoulder or like on the ground, like in the cafeteria. And when it cracks, it goes off. And then it's kind of hard to find and see. And then it's like, it smells like most people that are listening to this podcast, I'm sure, because it's outdoorsy folks, they probably smelled like 1 to 100 farts in their life, right? Or more. It smells like maybe 10,000 farts at once. But like the worst, right? So 10,000 farts in the cafeteria. And I forget how I got caught. And then I think that was kind of it for high school. That was kind of like a chill one.
Wow. That's
And the moral there is just, believe in yourself.
You eventually graduated.
I did graduate from high school.
That's good.
I was a keynote speaker.
That's crazy.
Or wait, keynote? No, it was
You're the valedictorian.
You weren't listening to the story. There was no way I was the what's that word? Valedictorian? Am I saying? I've never said it right. I've never said it was confidence. Valedictorian.
It's hard to say it.
You know what else? Another one's tough is anesthesiologist. Say that.
I can't do it.
Come on.
I just had like 3 beers.
Just try and say it.
Anesthesiologist. Anesthesiologist.
Both my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law that live in North PB, they are anesthesiologists. Is it steezy? Steezy in the middle?
I don't know. We'll just make it up. So, advice to people who want to live more wildly. How about this?
Go to REI, get some boots and a backpack by the North Face.
For real, if you could fly like, this is an eco-friendly podcast.
Here we go.
So if you could fly an eco-friendly plane across the sky and it could have this beautiful banner reading one message to the world, what's your message to the world? Is it?
I married Goldie Koffenberg. That's what it would say. If I could use all my resources to do a banner. A banner? That's so pimp. I wouldn't waste that to like inspire others. I would get husband points.
Okay, so what would your advice be?
If I could have second banner?
Yeah, second banner.
Okay, so the second jet, eco-friendly fuel, hemp banner.
Hemp banner.
That would read, it would say talk to strangers. That's what it would say.
I love that.
Talk to strangers.
Why? Why is that so important?
Because I think that, what's the Gandhi thing? Be the change that you wish to see in your neighborhood or something. I think that even here where you live, like I can imagine there's probably some people in this complex that you don't know. And if you knew everybody, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, bad example.
I talk to everyone.
Okay, yeah, you're a bad example, or you're a good example. The point is, I think that a good change to see, whether it's a small neighborhood like Bird Rock, California, or it's a big neighborhood like Manhattan, New York, is people looking up from their phones or taking their headphones out and interacting. And you can do the whole digital like mumbo jumbo, or you can do the friendliness thing, or you can do the crime thing, or you can do any angle you want. I just don't see it being a bad thing. And then some kid gets like a razor blade in his candy and it's a bad thing. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work out. I just think that in my experience, speaking to strangers always opens up more stories and sometimes doors and definitely adventures. So get to REI and buy some boots.
Talk to strangers.
And talk to strangers.
That's a good advice. So last 2 more questions.
Last but not least.
Are there any books you gift to people? Do you read?
I know how to read.
I know you know how, but
Oh yeah.
What gifts do you give to people? Not even books. Like today you gifted me an awesome gift. It's like a little toy surf soldier.
Yep.
Which is totally epic because I actually have a toy surfer from a Baskin Robbins cake.
Right.
I just love.
But the humor in this one is that it's shaped and molded like a plastic toy soldier.
Yes.
I think the book The Alchemist is good. As far as like, well, first of all, it's a short read.
Super short read.
So like I'll rip through that and then I'll brag about it.
Easy to read. Love it.
Easy to read, but there's like some deep messages in there. It's great. Let's see. There's one year for Christmas where I bought like 12 copies of a Brother Ali album. Do you know Brother Ali? He's a hip hop artist in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And he raps for a record label called Rhymesayers. And the album was called something. It was called The Undisputed Truth. And I thought it was a really good message. He is a albino Muslim who has a lot to say about politics and the way women are treated and the way people really grow up in the hood and the way religion affects who we all can be and are. And he's like a spiritual cat, but he's like kind of a gangster, but not really like on the side of like drugs and guns and violence. But the way he speaks is prolific. And I think that I gave that album, and I probably will continue to buy it, like an old dude, right? I'm going to be the guy buying CDs. I got you a CD. It opens up people's minds of what hip hop music is, which I'm a big fan of hip hop music, but also it makes you question the way we read people. Because if you were to see Brother Ali walking down the street, you'd be like, what the fuck? What is that guy, right? And the fact that he has so many layers, I think, is a cool lesson. And his music's great. So, The Undisputed Truth by Brother Ali.
Should be the new podcast intro, right?
Favorite album? Or no, I guess a gift, yeah. Here's a question. I'm going to give it to you, and then you can give it back to me. Favorite first concert? What was your first concert? Do you remember?
Creedence Clearwater Revival at the fair, and then Pearl Jam.
Same night?
No, a little bit after.
Okay. Mine was James Taylor.
Oh, that's great.
And the very next weekend we saw the 5 Blind Boys from Alabama, which are literally 5 old blind men that are walked out on stage by their like seeing guide. And that's the wrong terminology, but you get it. And then these brilliant dudes, they pick up their bass or whatever, they're handed their kind of whatever, their trumpet or something, and then they just go off for like 2 hours, and then they're walked back off stage. Now,
awesome.
They're no longer called the 5 Blind Boys because they're super old. Some of them have died. Now they're just like I think they're just the blind. Anyway, check them out.
We'll definitely check them out. You just ate a chip, but I was going to ask you one last question. So the last question is, where can people find out more? NovemberProject.com.
I know you have to buy a copy of the book. No.
Buy a copy of the book. We'll put that in the show notes.
I think the best way to start, the best gateway drug to what this is our main Instagram handle. It's just November Project straight through, no underscores. And when you search it, you'll notice that a ton come up. So November Project, Baltimore, Milwaukee, New York, whatever. The main one kind of takes content from all of them, and it's the one that Boyan and I still operate, and it's got a pretty good following. But I think more important than that is the fact that it tells a pretty broad story of what this is, and it doesn't just celebrate the dude with good abs and the girl with the really hot sports bra. It celebrates people trying. It celebrates the sunrise and all the epic shit that surfers love, but it's also urban, and it's also a training story and togetherness and all those like fuzzy, warm feelings too.
Well, thank you so much for surfing with us.
How'd we do?
Crushed it. I hope that the SD card is in here.
Oh yeah, what if we didn't do it?
Audience, I'm so appreciative of you for putting up with us. Thank you for listening.
Best podcast ever.
If you get a chance to go to a November Project, go. There's one in almost every city now in the world. If you're in San Diego, I'll wake up and go with you. Not on Wednesdays, but I'll come on Mondays because Wednesdays are when the podcast goes live and I have to sort of babysit it. But you know what? It's starting to run smoothly. So check out Brogan Graham on Instagram. Check out November Project. Buy the book. We'll have links in the show notes. Thank you, Brogan.
Thank you for having me.
You rock.
You have great guacamole.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this show. If we got a little cheeky, I apologize, but I really hope you enjoyed it. Brogan Graham. Follow him on Instagram, on Facebook. You can also check out the November Project on Instagram, Facebook, or go to thenovemberproject.com. Just show up to a workout. I guarantee you're going to have such a good time. Thank you to Brogan for coming on. Brogan, you rocked. You even surfed well. I was so impressed. A kid from Wisconsin who lived in Boston. He surfs. It was awesome. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks for subscribing. If you like this show, we'd love it if you leave reviews on iTunes. You can also just write me. I'm pretty easy to reach. Go to wildideasworthliving.com. You can contact me there. You can also go to Wild Ideas Worth Living on Instagram. We Instagrammed this live because Brogan hijacked the phone. So thank you, Brogan, and all of you who listened on the Instagram. I appreciate it. And wherever you are in the world, don't forget, some of the best adventures happen when you follow your wildest ideas. We've got some great shows coming out. We'll see you next week.